Let the words of my mouth and the meditation of our hearts be always acceptable in your sight, O Lord, our strength and our Redeemer. Amen. I give thanks every day for the opportunity to serve here, to assist Bishop Sutton, and to work among clergy and lay of our diocese. I hold it the greatest privilege. I love Maryland, and I love you. Later, Bishop Sutton will make his annual report. One of the advantages, one of many, of being the assisting bishop is that I don't give a report, but I have a chance to preach a homily at this service. Last year, I chose to preach a very personal sermon based on my own experience of white privilege and how I am now more informed about the necessity for reparations. This year, I want to share my thoughts on a grave concern which troubles me greatly: lying and dishonesty. Whatever happened to honesty? The importance of telling the truth. Honesty in the household in which I grew up was the bottom line. My older brother and I learned very early on that we would be punished for doing bad things, but if we tried to lie our way out of being punished, we would be punished much more severely. It didn't take us long to learn the lesson that lying was not acceptable. Trying to evade the truth, telling half-truths, or gross exaggerations were not simply tolerated in my family. Now, not everyone grew up that way, but many of you did. I came to understand that lying was bad because it destroyed basic trust, undermined relationships, and over time destroys the fabric of family and society. My father was perhaps the most honest person I have ever known. As a mechanical engineer, he was very good at math. But every spring, he would agonize over the income tax forms, checking them and rechecking them a number of times. He wasn't looking for loopholes. No, cheating was the last thing on his mind. He was checking to make sure that every penny he owed the government would in fact be paid. Those of us who are older grew up in a time when a person's word could be trusted for the most part. Of course, there were notorious liars, politicians who would say anything to get elected, businessmen who would go back on their word, but they were shunned by moral people and seemed to be a small minority. Now we live in a very different time when lying and deceit are commonplace. Large numbers of people buy into incredible lies and create realities which have no basis in reality. And it is getting worse. Even people who take pride in calling themselves Christians engage in gross distortions and lies, and don't even attempt to find out the truth, let alone stand up for it. People with one issue, be it abortion or something else, are often willing to condone the most obscene and grossly dishonest behavior of politicians who claim to endorse their point of view, their one cause. Jesus was not a one-issue theologian, nor did he condone lying and hypocrisy. He called out such behavior loudly and in public. This endangered his very life and ultimately led to his crucifixion. It wasn't because the people he talked about were pleased with him that they crucified him. It was because he spoke honesty to dishonesty. Some people in our society are similarly threatened when they speak out for truth. School board members, election monitors, moral politicians like Liz Cheney. Even their families are threatened. Such people pay a price for speaking the truth. Today, many live into an ethic which operates on the assumption that reaching their goal, achieving their desired ends, whatever they are, justify any means they use to obtain these ends. So sports teams cheat, and scholars cheat to get good grades. And some of their parents give inordinate amounts of money to colleges that will accept them or give them scholarships they don't deserve. There's nothing new about politicians and others stretching the truth, but we are witnessing an epidemic of gross lying and distortion. And why? Because some people are determined to get what they want, regardless of the cost. There is nothing Christian in such an ethic. Jesus is very clear that the means one uses affect the ends. If you use corruption and lying to get what you want, whatever it is has already been corrupted by the means you've used. Love, honesty, truth result in good ends because these means themselves are good. It's really surprisingly simple. Can American democracy be saved? Can fairness and equality of opportunity yet be achieved in this country, our beloved country? Can anything truly survive this onslaught of dishonesty? A few years ago, I was more optimistic, but now I have serious doubts. 156 years and 6 months after General Lee surrendered at Appomattox Courthouse, we are still fighting the Civil War for the soul of America. Still on one side stand those who would turn the clock back to an earlier time when we cared little or nothing for the rights and freedoms of minorities, treated the earth as if it existed for our exploitation, and didn't give much thought to the ideals of equality, opportunity, mutual respect, or the ability of all of our citizens to enjoy life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Things our founders envisioned, about which they wrote in elegant words, and have never been realized on these shores. On the other side are those who celebrate our diversity and are working to create an even playing field. Those who hear and believe these fundamental values apply to all members of our society. Those who care deeply about our environment and believe in conservation. I see daily in our diocese people who really care for their neighbors, welcome the strangers, fight for equality, and work for climate justice. They are the ones who give me heart, or I should say, you are the ones who give me heart. It's not only our nation engaged in this war, the Church of Jesus Christ is also gradually being eroded by liars within. People who claim a personal relationship with Jesus, but don't understand that that personal relationship is only the beginning of faith. When we really have a relationship with Jesus, he leads us into caring for others, fighting for justice, defending truth, and being good stewards of the earth. The media portrays Christianity as if it was only the adherents that I've spoken about, these hypocrites who believe it's only me and Jesus, and that's all that matters in the world. There are undoubtedly Episcopalians who fall into this group, but I honestly don't meet many of them here in this diocese or even elsewhere. I still believe in the essential goodness of people. We are, after all, made in God's image. Some of our people are deceived, perhaps too naively or easily. Others are afraid of what they may lose and have a false sense of security. Yet the dangers posed by lies, deceptions, and unfairness are a threat to Christianity here and around the world. No wonder most people in our secular culture here in America don't want to be identified with a particular church or synagogue. On the other hand, a very large number of Americans say they are spiritual. If it appears churches are filled with lying hypocrites, no wonder most secular people shun churches and seek spiritual nourishment elsewhere. Christianity, as well as our country, are under attack. It is not enough to hold our values and live ethical lives. We need to be far more involved in speaking the truth to power, decrying attitudes and stances which are clearly incompatible with Christian faith. We who care need to raise our voices and to be heard, need to work politically to make sure people who care about justice and truth and about the environment are elected. Jesus said, "I am the way, the truth, and the life." There is no deceit here. His life of self-sacrifice and love are the way, our way, God's way. This way leads us inevitably to truth, and it is the deepest truth. By working for justice and equality, fairness, love of neighbor, defense of the defenseless, love of all God's children, and love for all creation, we are led to our truest selves. This life has deep meaning. We become incarnations of the truth, as was Jesus. He was truth. In that truth is life, his life and ours. Anything less than that life is incomplete. In lying, deception, and in cheating are death. The moral death of the person, the death of lively faith, the death of personal relationships, the death of society itself. Choose truth over falsehood, honesty over deception, reality over delusion, life over death. Be defenders of faith and our democracy. Amen.